Hello and welcome to the May 10th, 2026 episode of Nick's News. I am your host Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're paying for this project of ours. We're live every Sunday, and I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nick's News YouTube channel. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like Industry Tap, Live Science, Positive.News, and GoodGoodGood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Christian. So, should be a good one. Might be a little quick, though. We've only got 6 good news articles tonight, but hoping that every single one of them is great. Hello, Becky. Let's get into things. News Brew. I have a veritable grab bag of news brews to go through, so May is going to be a little bit wild and random and chaotic. Are you having difficulty going to sleep? Why not reach into the fridge and pour yourself a glass of night milk? I love these can arts. So this is Night Milk from Abomination Brewing. This is a 7% ABV Milk Stout, chock full of vanilla goodness. And I just love all the little stuff that Abomination Brewing, there we go. Like, all the stuff that they put on these cans is just wild. So, this is really awesome. Now, it's just a milk stout. It's not an imperial stout like some of the brews we've had, so we don't need to have it in the harpoon snifter, which we used for weeks and weeks on end. We can instead use a regular pint glass. So I am going with my, which year was this one? This was I believe this was the 2025 Support Your Local Beer Michigan Brewery glass. So, really nice one. Don't need the Balisong bottle opener since it's a can, so we'll just blow the gain on the audio. And we'll get into the theatrics of a 5-minute pour. I really need to get some music going for when I get into the pouring the news brew. A lot of gas on that I don't want in me, so I'm going to get it all out now. Good color, really dark brew. And we'll top that off as we get into our shout-outs. So, speaking of shout-outs, Tesla Tree Service is an environmentally friendly tree service in South Jersey with years of experience, not just with trees, but getting stuck animals out of them. Animal rescues are always free, and if you haven't checked out their Facebook page, please do so and show Steve and the crew love with likes and follows and shares of their content. They really are an amazing bunch, and they perform really great services in their area, and they really deserve the traffic. So please head over to Tesla Tree Service, give them some likes, some shares, and some follows. We've included their links down below in the description of this video, as well as the link to the International Directory of Cat Rescuers. So, to Tesla Tree Service. Cheers. So this broadcast is on May 10th of 2026, which is Mother's Day. And Nick's News would like to reach out to all of the mothers out there and say, Happy Mother's Day. Cheers. Hey, Nico. News quote. It seems to me that the natural world is the greatest source of excitement, the greatest source of visual beauty. The greatest source of visual beauty, the greatest source of intellectual interest. It is the greatest source of so much in life that makes life worth living. That quote is from Sir David Frederick Attenborough, who was born in 1926, who is an English broadcaster, a natural historian, and a writer who recently celebrated his 100th birthday. I really love that quote. Not just because it's from Sir David Attenborough, who many of us have grown up with. We've grown up hearing his voice as he has talked about nature, and he's really up there with the greats as far as nature goes, as far as being able to talk about the natural world around us. Projects like Blue Planet, Planet Earth, I can't even begin to name them. He got into it on a whim, just because a person that was supposed to be doing the explaining during an episode of a show he was helping to film was sick one day, so he stepped in and he started talking about the natural world, and everything clicked from there. And I really love that quote, because when you go out and you see the world around you, it really is all of that. It really is just an amazing source of tranquility and beauty, and it piques curiosity. So it seems to me that the natural world is the greatest source of excitement, the greatest source of visual beauty, the greatest source of intellectual interest. It is the greatest source of so much in life that makes life worth living. Thank you for that, Sir David Attenborough, and happy birthday. Cheers. There we go. Now we're topped off. Bug update. Just in time for Mother's Day, one of my Madagascar hissing roaches decided to have a litter of babies. It's got a whole bunch now, which is plenty of food to go around for all the other bugs in the bug room. I know, that's a little morbid, but that's going to be the cycle of life. So, Elmira still hasn't come out, but I do get a chance to look in on her, thanks to the little spot of dirt that she cleared that allowed me to look into her burrow. She's getting more and more active each day, which is great. Ripley and Little John have been just happy as bugs can be, scuttling about and doing buggy things. And Sue is a total shut-in and refuses to show his face. So, otherwise, all is well in the bug world. Now, without further ado, let's get into our broadcast, which is broken up into 4 categories. Well, our good news broadcast is broken up into 4 categories, and those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice articles we like to end on. So we're going to start off in category 1, science and technology. We've got one article in this section, and we called it Heading Away from Town, Flying Fast, Asteroids Passing on Mars Bound, do-do-do-do-do-do-do. And hopefully we don't get copyright struck. But I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. I was not looking for this. Scientist accidentally finds shortcut to Mars that could slash travel time in half. This was published to Live Science. When was this published again? On the 5th? Yeah, on the 5th of May, 2026, by Sharmila Kuthuner. Astronauts could complete a round trip to Mars in less than a year someday, potentially cutting current mission timelines in half, according to a new study that drew inspiration from asteroid trajectories. Under current mission profiles, reaching Mars, which is located about 50% farther from the Sun than Earth is, will take roughly 7 to 10 months. Because Earth and Mars align for fuel-efficient transfers only every 26 months, astronauts must wait for a return window, stretching a full round trip to nearly 3 years. However, the new findings, which were published online in the journal Acta Astronautica, back in April, suggests that early, imprecise orbital estimates of near Earth asteroids, which were historically used to assess impact risks before being discarded in favor of more precise data, may contain valuable geometric clues for designing faster interplanetary routes. Maybe this can change the idea that we need more than 2 years to go to Mars and return, study author Marcelo de Oliveira Souza, a cosmologist at the State University of Northern Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, told Live Science. Souza first stumbled on the idea back in 2015 when he was studying near-Earth asteroids. One object in particular, 2001 CA21, caught his attention because early estimates suggested it followed a rare path crossing both Earth's and Mars's orbital zones. Although later measurements refined the asteroid's true trajectory, its initial geometry during the October 2020 opposition, when Earth and Mars were aligned on the same side of the Sun, and the closest together in their orbits, hinted at the possibility of ultra-short routes between the two planets, Souza noted in the paper. "This was a surprise for me. I was not looking for this," he told Live Science. As more observations allow astronomers to refine an asteroid's orbit, those early trajectories change, so someone analyzing it later wouldn't have seen the same path, Souza added. "Maybe I was in the right place at the right time," he said. For the October 2020 opposition, Souza's calculations showed that a very fast, roughly 34-day trip from Earth to Mars is geometrically possible if a spacecraft follows a path similar to the asteroid's early orbital plane. However, such a trajectory would require departure speeds of around 32.5 kilometers per second. Well beyond our current rocket capabilities, and a spacecraft would arrive at Mars traveling at over 64,800 miles per hour, or 108,000 kilometers per hour, which is too fast for existing landing systems to handle safely, Souza noted in the paper. Instead, Souza used an asteroid-inspired geometry to explore possible trips during future Mars oppositions in 2027, 2029, and 2031. By using a standard method for calculating paths between 2 points in space, called the Lambert analysis, and constraining those paths to remain within about 5 degrees of an asteroid's orbital tilt, Souza found that only the 2031 alignment offered a viable opportunity for rapid travel using near-term technology. In that window, a round-trip mission from Earth to Mars could be completed in just 153 days, or roughly 5 months, according to the study. So we're going from 2 years, potentially down to 5 months. In that scenario, the spacecraft would depart Earth on April 20th of 2031 at about 27 kilometers per second, arrive at Mars by May 23rd after a 33-day journey, spend about 30 days on the surface, depart June 22nd, and return to Earth by September 20th, with the return leg taking roughly 90 days. Souza also identified a lower energy alternative within the same window, requiring a launch at about 16.5 kilometers per second for a mission lasting about 226 days, or about 7.5 months, still significantly shorter than the current mission timelines. Still, the concept remains largely theoretical and would depend heavily on mission specifics, including the spacecraft's design, the payload mass, and the propulsion capabilities, all of which would shape whether such fast transfers are feasible in space and in practice. The method, however, could still prove useful as a way to narrow the search for viable trajectories. The required velocities are compared to those achieved by missions such as New Horizons, the NASA probe, which, when launched back in 2006 on a mission to fly by Pluto at 16.2 kilometers per second, was the fastest human-made object ever launched from Earth. Such high-speed trajectories could be within the reach of next-generation rockets, such as SpaceX's Starship or Blue Origin's New Glenn, so's told Live Science. That is really wild. The potential to be able to cut down 2-year journeys to under a year thanks to looking at some odd geometry from some asteroids in our solar system. To everybody involved in the study, and especially the study author Marcelo de Oliveira Souza for discovering this, cheers. It indeed still sounds doable. All right, that's going to get us out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. We've got 2 articles in here. The first one we called Unexpected Side Effects May Be Unexpected. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. And again, all of the articles that we present on our episodes are found in the descriptions of our video. Please check these sites out, give them some foot traffic, give them some whatever they need to get this good news out there, because these sites really do a lot of work to put this good news together, to find this, to study it, to do good journalism and produce good news. So show these people some love just as much as you do us. Doctors are surprised by what this vaccine is doing to the heart. This was published to SciTech Daily on May 8th of 2026 by the American College of Cardiology. A new study suggests that people with heart disease who receive a shingles vaccine may face far fewer serious heart problems within a year. The research, which was presented at the American College of Cardiology's annual scientific session, or ACC.26, found that vaccinated individuals had nearly half the rate of major cardiac events compared to those who did not get the shot. The analysis included more than 246,822 adults in the United States with atherosclerotic heart disease, a condition caused by plaque buildup in arteries. The findings add to a growing body of evidence that the shingles vaccine may do more than just prevent shingles, with potential benefits that extend to heart health and even conditions like dementia. This vaccine has been found over and over again to have cardioprotective effects for reducing heart attack, stroke, and death, said Robert Guyon, MD, a resident physician at the University of California, Riverside, and the study's lead author. Looking at the highest risk population, those with existing cardiovascular disease, these protective effects might be even greater than among the general public. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, recommends shingles vaccinations for adults aged 50 years and older, as well as younger people with weakened immune systems. The vaccine protects against herpes zoster, which causes a painful rash and can sometimes lead to long-term nerve pain. This condition occurs when the virus that causes chickenpox becomes active again later in life. Earlier research has shown that shingles infections can trigger the formation of blood clots near the brain and heart. These clots can increase the risk of serious events such as a heart attack, stroke, and venous thromboembolism. That's a terrible word. By preventing shingles, the vaccine may also help reduce the chance of these dangerous complications. Researchers used TriNetX, a large database containing health records for millions of Americans, to examine adults aged 50 years or older with atherosclerotic disease between 2018 and 2025. The study compared 123,411 people who received at least one dose of the Shingrix or Zostavax vaccine with an equal number who were not vaccinated. Both groups were similar in demographics and other health conditions. The team focused on cardiac events that were occurring between 1 month and 1 year after vaccination, or the same time frame for those who were not vaccinated. Across all outcomes, vaccinated individuals showed a lower risk. They were 46% less likely to experience a major adverse cardiac event and 66% less likely to die from any cause. In addition, their risk of heart attack dropped by 32%, stroke by 25%, and heart failure by 25%. Guyan said these reductions are substantial and comparable to the benefits seen from quitting smoking. He added that the findings reinforce current recommendations for adults over age 50 to receive the shingles vaccine. Vaccines are one of the most important medicines we have to prevent disease, he said. Sometimes patients are unsure about whether they should get a vaccine or not, particularly in an age of disinformation. These results provide another reason for them to elect to get the vaccine. The study examined outcomes only during the first year after vaccination, so the long-term effects may not be fully captured. However, a previous study released in 2025 found that the shingles vaccination was associated with a 23% lower risk of cardiovascular events in a generally healthy population. And the protective effects may last up to 8 years. Researchers also noted a potential limitation. People who choose to get vaccinated may be more likely to engage in healthier behaviors overall. While the study accounted for several health and socioeconomic factors, including housing and economic circumstances, social environment, employment status, education, and literacy, some of the observed benefits may still be influenced by these differences. Even so, the study's large size and statistical methods support strong confidence in the link between shingles vaccination and reduced cardiovascular risk. That is really neat. To everybody involved at the University of California, Riverside, who did this study and found that the shingles vaccine may actually afford more protection against cardiovascular events in people over the age of 50. Cheers. Producer Donna said, pretty decent numbers. It really is. All right, this next one is a fuck cancer article. I made sure the hat was nice and close this time. I'll copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check it out. Becky said, yes! The hat makes her triumphant return. For those who don't know, this was a hat that was made by a friend when I did a cosplay from the manga and anime Cells at Work. So, the world wants to eliminate cervical cancer. How Australian scientists led the way. This was published to the BBC on the 1st of May, 2026 by Tabby Wilson. Oh, uh-oh, what just happened? Is this a paywall? Am I getting hit with a paywall? Yep, I'm being hit with a paywall. Need to find a version of the article that I can read. Sorry, folks, just a moment. Darn it. I hate paywalls. We're really not a fan of them here at Nick's News because good news should not be held behind a paywall. I'm going to find a version of this that isn't on the BBC's website. I don't know, Producer Donna. She just asked, why did you and not me? I'm not sure. Maybe because I live in America. You're saying BBC isn't pay, but it says I did. It says subscribe to BBC to continue. $8.99 a month or $49.99 a year. I'm not going to put you all through that. So, Nordic Wolf crawls in exhausted and waves. Hey, Nordic. All right, I found a article from the University of Sydney that's from the same date, so we're going to go with that one, and I'll change the article that we're crediting this to in post. There we go. Check that one out. Nope, Producer Donna, I already got a backup. How we're eliminating cervical cancer. This was published to the University of Sydney website on the 1st of May, 2026 by Saman Shad, with photography of the article done by Kate Garrity and Ray Marquis. For many years, by the time women arrived at the hospital in Timor-Leste's capital, Dili, it was usually too late. Cervical cancer has long been the second most common cancer among women in the small nation, just an hour's flight from Darwin. For years, obstetrician/gynecologist Dr. Jose Antonio Guzmão Gutierrez, also known as Dr. Zito, saw the same pattern: advanced cancer, few treatment options, and families preparing for loss. There was no proper screening service, he explains. All women presenting were at late stages, and those referred overseas had poor prognoses, with almost no one surviving. Dr. Zito describes these times as a very painful moment. Now, at the Vera Cruz Community Health Center clinic in Dili, the situation is starting to change. Women can now collect their own screening samples in privacy, without having to undergo a pelvic examination. Tests are processed on-site, with results ready within 2 hours, and anyone who tests positive can be assessed for treatment the same day. This new approach has been made possible through a partnership between the Timor-Leste Ministry of Health, local clinicians, and researchers from the University of Sydney's Cancer Elimination Collaboration, working with the Elimination Partnership in the Indo-Pacific for Cervical Cancer, or the EPICC, Consortium, and other regional partners. EPICC's work, which began in 2021 and is supported by the Australian government and the Mindiru Foundation, aims to adapt Australia's success to develop sustainable, locally owned programs in 9 countries across the Indo-Pacific. For the first time, says Dr. Zito, we can screen women early enough to prevent cancer. The model is simple, but the science behind it was decades in the making. And much of it began in Australia, which is now on the verge of making history. If current efforts continue, Australia is poised to become the first country in the world to eliminate cervical cancer as a public health problem by 2035, a feat the World Health Organization has now set as a global objective. Australia has become an exemplar of what's possible, says Professor Karen Canfell, AC FAHMS, bachelor's in electrical in 1991. Is that a Bachelor of Engineering? Who leads the Cancer Elimination Collaboration, or the CEC, at the University of Sydney's School of Public Health. Elimination isn't one breakthrough. It's the result of decades of innovation involving vaccination, new screening technologies and approaches, equitable access to treatment, and empowering communities to take control of their own health. The success story began back in 1991 with the launch of the National Cervical Screening Program. Within just over a decade of the Pap smear-based program being rolled out, both the incidence and mortality rates of cervical cancer in Australia had been halved. representing one of the most dramatic reductions in cancer burden in the nation's history. The introduction in 2007 of a first-generation vaccine for human papillomavirus, or HPV, the virus that causes almost all cervical cancers, then presented a new opportunity to protect younger populations and provided the impetus to reinvigorate the screening program. In 2017, Australia replaced pap smears with HPV testing, a highly sensitive approach that detects the virus long before precancerous changes appear. This major development was made possible by years of research by the now CEC team and its partners, working closely with governments to assess the international evidence and evaluate the potential impacts and cost-effectiveness of HPV screening in Australia. This transition greatly improved our ability to identify early changes that might increase future risk, Karen explains. By changing to HPV-based screening in the National Cervical Screening Program, more lives are being saved every year. Research continues through the CEC's COMPASS trial, run in collaboration with the Australian Centre for the Prevention of Cervical Cancer in Victoria. Involving more than 80,000 participants, it's providing world-first evidence to guide the future of Australia's cervical cancer screening program. In 2022, Australia introduced universal access to self-collection of cervical cell samples for the cervical screening test, again supported by the CEC team's work, enabling people to collect their own samples in private with medical supervision. This change has been critical in improving access for those who might otherwise avoid screening for reasons of accessibility, privacy, or past trauma. Recent Australian Institute of Health and Welfare data shows that more than 5.5 million people aged 25 to 74 underwent cervical screening for HPV between 2020 and mid-2025, reflecting strong participation in the renewed National Cervical Screening Program. The 2025 Cervical Cancer Elimination Progress Report also found that in 2021, for the first time, not a single case of cervical cancer was documented among those aged under 25 years nationwide, demonstrating the efficacy of Australia's HPV vaccination program in younger people. As Karen explains, each of these steps builds upon the last. Together, they give us the tools not just to control cervical cancer, but to eliminate it, and critically, to do so equitably. Elimination is not simply about driving national averages down. The real measure lies in how evenly these gains are distributed. It is not enough to reduce incidence in the population overall, says Professor Deborah Bateson, AM, who also works with the CEC and leads the EPICC program in Timor-Leste. We must ensure elimination across all communities, including First Nations peoples, those living rurally, people with disability, and others historically underserved by health systems. With almost half of all screening tests now self-collected, the greatest uptake has been among groups who previously were least likely to screen, including those from disadvantaged socioeconomic groups and those living in very remote areas. Aboriginal community-controlled health organizations are also leading culturally safe, community-designed screening initiatives to overcome long-standing inequities. However, the 2025 Cervical Cancer Progress Report warns that in recent years there has been a drop-off in vaccination coverage. Screening rates have also slipped slightly, with more than 1 in 4 women overdue for their screening test and 15% of 25 to 39-year-olds never having had one. A renewed focus on both vaccination and screening access and uptake, including services better targeted to marginalized communities, is critical for Australia to achieve elimination by 2035. As effective as Australia's public health programs have been in positioning the country towards achieving elimination, cervical cancer remains a devastating reality for communities in many neighboring countries. Globally, it is the 4th most common cancer in women. But the vast majority of cases, more than 90%, occur in low and middle income countries due to a historical lack of access to screening in such nations. This stark reality is what drove a range of global research projects led by Karen's team. Now at the University of Sydney CEC, to work closely with WHO and other partners to develop the evidence base to support its global strategy for the elimination of cervical cancer, which was launched in 2020. The team's modeling showed that vaccination, screening, and treatment could save 62 million lives over the long term, and its ongoing work continues to support WHO in its development of global cervical screening guidelines. The situation in low and middle income countries also motivated the formation of the EPICC partnership. Timor-Leste is just one of many countries being supported, with critical work ongoing in Indonesia, Malaysia, Vanuatu, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Tuvalu, Nauru, and the Solomon Islands. In Timor-Leste, EPICC is working with local leaders to drive change. And in February of this year, the University of Sydney formalized its relationship with the Timor-Leste Ministry of Health through the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding. So far, through both clinic-based screening and outreach events across the nation's capital of Dili, more than 1,500 women have been screened and more than 140 treated with thermal ablation, a simple treatment performed using a lightweight and easily portable device, typically without the need for general anesthesia. For Dr. Zito, this represents a profound turning point. This is a huge step in terms of service provision, he says. It offers a bright and promising future in terms of prevention, reduction of cervical cancer incidence, and even elimination in 50 or 60 years to come. I am hopeful and confident that success can be achieved, one step at a time. We are just at the beginning. As an Australian Awards Fellow and EPICC's technical lead, Dr. Zito visited the University of Sydney to gain hands-on experience in the women's health and cancer care in the Australian context, returning home to put this learning into practice. For him, the impact is measured not just in statistics, but in lives. Each diagnosis made earlier means a family kept intact and a community protected. After years of witnessing loss, the change is as emotional as it is clinical. I remember the women who came too late, he says. That memory drives me. Now, with the help of our Australian partners, we can give women the chance to live. Deborah sees the same transformation through the eyes of the women and communities that she works with. Every person in Timor-Leste knows someone affected by cervical cancer, she says. Too often, women die at the peak of their lives, leaving behind children and families, with profound intergenerational health and social consequences. To work with our colleagues in Timor-Leste towards eliminating this terrible disease, to offer women hope instead of fear, is extraordinarily meaningful. For CEC lead Karen, the sentiment captures the heart of elimination. This is about equity and sustainability, she says. It's about ensuring that where a person is born no longer determines whether they experience or survive cervical cancer. If Australia reaches its goal of elimination by 2035, it is expected to be the world first, but certainly not the researchers' hope, the last. With programs like EPICC forging new regional pathways, the University of Sydney and its international partners are working with communities to ensure that the benefits of prevention and control reach far beyond Australia's shores. And if that happens, the story of cervical cancer will ultimately become proof that with evidence-based research, strong partnerships, and a shared sense of humanity, a once major cancer can be consigned to history. We presented an article last year as well about something very similar where Scotland was the first to put such a major dent into cervical cancer cases. We were a little confused that the article that we went over before did not include that part. But to everybody involved across the world in different programs to end cervical cancer and make it history. Cheers. That had hair for a moment. Alright, that's going to get us out of health and medicine. We're going to move on to category 3. Flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. We got 2 articles in here tonight. We call this first one, Getting Bees. Just not on your report card. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this out. Producer Donna said, most European countries are adopting this same plan for elimination. Nordic followed that up with, that's because Europe has a brain cell. Yep. Two college students led a crusade to end herbicide use on their campus. Now they're doing the same at schools nationwide. That was published May 1st of 2026 to goodgoodgood.co by Cameron Baker. In 2017, Mackenzie Feldman and Bridget Gustafson were playing beach volleyball at University of California, Berkeley, when they found out that their practice courts had been sprayed with an herbicide linked to cancer and environmental harm. They immediately went to the powers that be and offered for the entire volleyball team to pull weeds around the court if it meant the school would stop spraying the herbicides. The campaign quickly took off on campus, and now UC Berkeley manages 95% of its grounds, which is 1,171 acres of land, organically and without the use of inorganic fertilizers, chemical pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides. Then, the efforts snowballed even bigger. Feldman and Gustafson launched RE Wild Your Campus, a nonprofit that equips college students and university groundskeepers with the resources they need to transform campuses into biodiverse spaces for pollinators, all without toxic chemicals. They created the RYC Green Grounds certification, with support from experts, groundskeepers, students, and sustainability professionals, to give college campuses the tools they need to take action and set an example for other schools. It goes above and beyond reducing pesticide use to incentivize regenerative landscape practices that will increase biodiversity, reduce water use, improve soil health, and take campus sustainability efforts to the next level, the nonprofit's website explains. By 2025, 15 college campuses were Green Grounds certified, and over 700 students and administrators have been trained to carry out rewilding projects on their own grounds. UCLA, which received its Green Grounds certification in 2025, earned a gold-level credential, which it credits to long-standing efforts to transition turf spaces to drought-tolerated plants. Over 30,000 square feet of turf was converted to California native, drought-tolerant plants on campus, a press release from UCLA shared. This certification reflects the hard work of so many at UCLA, Nurit Katz, UCLA's Chief Sustainability Officer, said in a statement. The goal is setting an example with climate-resilient landscapes that also support human and ecological health that hopefully becomes standard way beyond our campus. In addition to the young women's original effort to stop the use of harmful herbicides, their work now extends to improving soil health, increasing biodiversity, reducing emissions, and building skills for communities of young people wanting to do more for the planet. Every spray of chemicals tells the same story. Short-term aesthetics over long-term health. RE Wild's website shares. But we know another future is possible. One where campuses nurture biodiversity, protect people, and connect communities back to the natural world. That is really awesome. To Mackenzie Feldman and Bridget Gustafson for launching from University of California, Berkeley, and beginning to expand nationwide, the RYC Green Ground Certification to prevent the use of herbicides, fungicides, and restore biodiversity to college campuses. Cheers. Oh, hey, Little John. I don't know if anybody noticed, but our Emperor Scorpion, Little John, has come out to go around for a scuttle. He always likes to check this little pit that he's dug for anything hiding whenever he comes out. So, sup, little buddy? I don't think there's anything down there, but you can keep checking. All right. This next one we called Reintegrating the Symbol of a Nation. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to check this article out. And I really like this article, by the way. I actually heard it a ton of places before producer Donna showed me the one that we were going to read. Kiwi birds have lost 99% of their population. New Zealanders are fighting for their return. This was published to goodgoodgood.co on May 1st of 2026 by Megan Cook. Before humans arrived in New Zealand, an estimated 12 million kiwi birds roamed the oceanic island country. Now, only about 70,000 remain, with the population continuing to decline by roughly 2% each year. A century ago, the species all but disappeared from the hills of Wellington, New Zealand's capital city. The surviving birds were moved offshore to predator-free sanctuaries where they could be monitored and protected. Today, a grassroots initiative called the Capital Kiwi Project is bringing them home. They are part of who we are and our sense of belonging here. Paul Ward, founder of the Capital Kiwi Project, told the Associated Press. But they've been gone from these hills for well over a century, and we decided as Wellingtonians that wasn't right. Recently, volunteers carefully carried 7 crates of kiwis. That's right, you can put kiwis in a crate, and we're not talking about the fruit. Recently, volunteers carefully carried 7 crates of kiwis through the hillside to relocate them in Wellington. One kiwi was carried into the Parliament's Grand Banquet Hall to mark the arrival of the 250th bird to return to its natural habitat. A few people in the quiet crowd were in tears, while a man recited a karakia, a traditional Maori prayer. Silver Mist Wolf says, I need a crate of kiwis. Kiwi birds may be small and unassuming, but they play a big role in the food web as ecosystems engineers. By eating fruits along the forest floor, they help disperse seeds as they snack, which aids forest growth. In addition to fruits, kiwis eat bugs, such as cicadas, beetles, and larvae, helping keep local insect populations in check. They poke their noses through leaf litter as they look for worms and insects to eat, which in turn helps aerate the soil. But in New Zealand, kiwis are more than native birds. They are also symbols of the nation. This animal has given us a people so much in terms of our sense of identity, Ward said. We want to challenge our civic leaders, our politicians, and say this is a relationship we need to honor. The Kiwi Initiative is part of New Zealand's ambitious goal to eliminate introduced predators, including feral cats, possums, rats, and stoats, by 2050. The ambitious goal was first set in 2016. Now, a decade in, the community groups have embraced the effort wholeheartedly. Thanks to eagle-eyed volunteers, some areas, like Wellington, are now largely free of predators aside from pets. It's a measure that helps local birds, including kiwis, thrive. I grew up roaming around these hills as a kid, Ward said. It's awesome that if we do the work, my children will soon hear Kiwi calling from them. That is amazing. To everybody with the Capital Kiwi Project, working to return a national symbol to its homeland after 100 years' absence, and to the Kiwis, cheers. And I too want a crate of kiwi. All right, that is going to get us out of flora and fauna. We are going to go into the wholesome notes. And we have one wholesome note tonight. Producer Donna and I noticed we've been very heavy with wholesome notes, so we did 2 health and medicines, 2 flora and faunas, and we're just doing the one wholesome note, but it's a really good one because it is a heckin' good boys and girls article. And you're going to want to check this out, especially the second link in the description of the video. Again, all of the articles that we present, we have the links for them in the descriptions of the video so that you can go and look at them at your leisure. We highly implore you to go to these sites, give them some traffic, give them some likes and some follows and whatever you need to do, because they're the ones that are presenting the good news that we're finding to go over on our broadcast. And you definitely want to see this. I'm going to copy the article into the chat, which means if you all want to check out what this is about, you're going to have to look in the description and you're going to have to click on that second link. Denali's adorable sled dog puppy cam is back for 2026. Becky said, fireman with puppies calendar? No, a puppy cam. This year's 5 freight-style Alaskan Husky puppies carry on a 104-year-old tradition at Alaska's Denali National Park and Preserve. This was published to Popular Science on May 6th of 2026 by Laura Basis. Four words. Sled, dog, puppy cam. The puppy cam at Denali National Park and Preserve in Alaska is back for the season, and viewers can now watch 5 future canine rangers in action. Named after various national parks, sled dogs Sequoia, Mammoth, Rainier, Teton, and Mesa were born on March 30th. Another pup named Acadia will soon join the team from a partner kennel. Viewers can watch them grow, play, learn, and bond with their human ranger counterparts. Denali's sled dogs are actual working rangers, carrying on a tradition of helping protect the park's wilderness that goes back 104 years. They haul supplies and patrol 2 million acres of land in one of the most wild places in the United States. Denali Sled Dog Kennels is also one of the oldest dog kennels in the country. The puppies are freight-style Alaskan Huskies. Freight-style Huskies have long legs to help them break a trail through the snow, compact paws that resist ice buildup between their toes, in addition to sturdy coats and puffy tails to keep them warm when temperatures plummet well below zero. As far as personality, it's important that canine rangers are tenacious, have an unbridled love to pull and run as part of a team, and good social skills. The kennels receive thousands of admirers every summer, so it's important that they are not afraid of us as humans. The mother, or Dom, of this new litter is named Spark. She was born in 2023 and is already a Denali Kennels canine ranger. The father, or sire, named Trapper, is from Sage Mountain Kennel in Fairbanks, Alaska. Later in May, the Sage Mountain Kennel will select 2 of the puppies from this litter, who will stay in Denali for a few more weeks and then return them to Fairbanks to join their teams. Denali will also acquire one puppy from a litter that was born at Middle Earth Mushing Kennels in Fairbanks on April 3rd. Arranged breeding and splitting litters with partners strengthens the health of the kennel's lineage, as well as the health of all freight-style Alaskan Huskies, Denali National Park and Preserve Rangers wrote in a statement. If the puppy cam isn't enough, visitors to the park can experience the kennels on Saturdays and Sundays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Beginning on May 15th, the kennels will be open daily from 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with a free sled dog program at 2 p.m. To everybody involved at Alaska's Denali National Park and Preserve for training canine rangers to patrol the lands, and for putting on the puppy cam for all of us to enjoy. Cheers. I am so going to check out the puppy cam after this broadcast. Speaking of which, that's about it for us tonight. 6 amazing articles, really good ones, of course, ending with the puppy cam, which I implore everybody to check out. So, thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nix News YouTube channel. Again, we're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be on May 17th of 2026. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun there. May 17th of 2026. We encourage participation, so by all means, if you feel inclined, you can message us with news brews, shoutouts, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes. If you send a bunch, please try to spread them out across our 4 major categories, which again were science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, like the puppy cam. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram or email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are in the description of the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our content across all our platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, where we're doing news nibbles. To get good news and joy out into all the algorithms. Please no SEO improvement advertisements, we're not interested. Y'all continue to grow Nix News with everything you do, with every like, with every share, with every interaction of our content, and we can't say thank you enough. It's because of all of you that we continue to grow, and we continue to get this good news into the algorithm, because it can be missed. It's really easy to be bombarded with that bad news and to have a hard time finding a glimmer of hope, so we hope to be that little glimmer in the dark sea of bad news, so... Thank you very much, Becky, for sharing. Greatly appreciate that. So, as always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night, and I will play us out.